Okay, we're live. Thanks for joining, guys. This is kind of a spur of the moment live stream, but it's very what we're going to talk about. Okay, we're live. Thanks for joining, guys. This is kind of a spur. All right. Sorry about that. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Give me a 5x5, and also let me know if you can hear system audio right here. Let me see. Let me play this.
Cooking can be a...
Can you guys hear that? Can you hear me and system audio? Brazil's in the house. Boston, 5x5. Thanks, Seth Black. So you can hear me and system audio. Good deal. Where's everybody from? I'll start it off. Oklahoma. And it's I don't know, it's kind of a cloudy day today. So we got Boston in the house. We got Brazil in the house. If you're joining this after the live stream has rendered and become a video, just go ahead and skip ahead maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Accountability for all. What's up, man? From Boston. Boston. Hey, we got the Boston in the house. Florida. We're going to be talking about Florida today. Can you get a little tyranny in Florida? Of course you can get tyranny. Steve says 5x5. Ann's in Wisconsin. Awakes in Idaho. Silicon Valley Community Watch says sounds good. Polk County, Florida, says Shady. Yep, we're going to talk about Sheriff Grady Judd in Polk County, Florida here in a minute. California, Liverpool, UK, Vermont, Florida, JC, Tennessee. What's JC? JC, Tennessee. Chinafornia, Michigan. Cali in the house, says Mr. Trumpet. South Carolina, Cape Cod, Jersey Shore, 5x5, Oklahoma, rain. Clarksville, Tennessee, into house, says Edward. Thanks, good citizen, for subscribing. By the way, if you haven't already, memberships on this channel, it's $2.99. That's all I got. And my commitment to you is that I'm going to give you the information and the videos that lend itself to carving out a better life for yourself, for your children, for your children's children, in the name of justice, truth, and just doing what is right. That's my commitment to you. You can join the membership join button is below every video. So if you want to get on board, I really appreciate it. It helps the channel, helps me be able to do what I do if you feel like the content is valuable. Corey says Georgia, Brian, Southern Florida here. Charlie's from Missouri. Big love back to you, Brian Weinstein. John Eagles here. Bam's from Arizona. Tammy's from Texas. All right. Hey, before we get started in this, I just saw that the Supreme Court drafted an opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade as published by Politico. Very interesting. Very interesting. In a stunning breach of Supreme Court confidentiality and secrecy, Politico has obtained what it calls a draft of a majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito that would likely strike down Roe v. Wade. The long-standing take the babies out legislation from the 1970s. Got to be careful what you say here on live streams because the algos will catch you. The draft was circulated early February. According to Politico, the final opinion has not been released, and votes and language can change before opinions are formally released. The opinion in this case is not expected to be published until late June. The court confirmed the authenticity of the document Tuesday. It also stressed it was not the final decision. According to the draft, the court would overturn Roe v. Wade's holding of a federal constitutional right to an abortion. Anybody have a problem with this right here? Federal constitutional right to an abortion. Aside from the fact that abortion is a euphemism for you know what, is that constitutional to put a federal blanket over all the states in the union? I think not. And the constitutional argument against it is found in the 10th Amendment. The power is not delegated to the Fed, the federal government, the United States. By the way, Title 28, Section 300215A says the United States means federal corporation, if you want to look that up. Matter of fact, let's do it live. We'll go live. We'll go live with it. What are you talking about, Brian? What do you mean the United States means federal corporation? Let's see if it'll just come up. USC 23002. Here we go. 28 USA 3002. Let's just go ahead into the federal definition for United States. And it's Title 28, 28 USC 3002 15A. Let's go ahead and down there. United States means a federal corporation. So when you're talking about the United States, you're not talking about a country. You're not talking about a geographic location. According to their own U.S. federal code, United States means federal corporation. So this United States is a federal corporation. You can read it. The power is not delegated to the federal corporation by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So when you have a blanket law that covers all of the United States from the federal bureaucracy, from the corporation, you have something that inherently is unconstitutional. It's anti-Bill of Rights. It's anti, if you're going to use founding father vernacular, it's anti-freedom. And the thing we're going to talk about today with Sheriff Grady Judd in Polk County, Florida, is liberty. Weigh everything against liberty on the balance, against truth, against true justice, against what we know is right. And in arriving at that conclusion, you have to define terms. Patrick Henry said, guard with jealous attention the public what? Safety? The public liberty. Suspect anyone. Badged? Anyone. Uniformed? Anyone. Politician? Anyone. Robed tyrant of the Supreme Court? Anyone. Suspect anyone who comes near that precious jewel. The precious jewel of what? Safety? Security? The precious jewel of liberty. If anybody comes near it, not even touching it, they even get close to it, suspect them. Suspect them of what? Suspect them of robbing your liberty or attempting to rob your liberty. That's what you should suspect. So when you have this the holding of a federal constitutional right to an abortion, when you blanket that across all 50 states, you have violated the 10th Amendment, because that's supposed to be reserved to the states or to the people respectively, not to the federal bureaucracy. The opinion would be the most consequential abortion decision in decades and transform the landscape of women's reproductive health in America. How about the future women in the room? By the way, guys, thanks for the super chats. I will read every single super chat at the end, so don't worry. I'm not ignoring super chats. I just want to stay with this stream of thought. This is another example of where legality does not equal morality. Just like illegality doesn't equal immorality. People can talk all day about law and order and rule of law, but hey, let's define terms here. Who gets to make the rules? Who gets to write the laws? Are the laws just? Are the laws unjust? Do the laws come near that precious jewel of liberty? If they do, then they're illegitimate. If a law seeks to take your liberty or reach deeper into your pockets and take you, monetarily strangle you and economically terrorize you, then that's probably an unjust law. And it's probably something that people who have mental awareness and a moral code that they walk by, that they would not only, reject, but they would vehemently tear it down and expose it at every turn. It appears that 5 justices would be voting to overturn Roe. Chief Justice John Roberts did not want to completely overturn Roe v. Wade, meaning that he would have dissented from part of Alito's draft opinion. That would mean that the 5 conservative justices that would make up the majority overturning Roe are Alito and Justices Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. That's an interesting turn of events. And now you got a whole lot of people out there saying, stunning on so many levels, says CNN legal analyst down here. Amy Klobuchar, whoa. Amy Klobuchar reacts to what Trump's SCOTUS nominees said about abortion during confirmations. This is an interesting turn of events. So now we have a whole bunch of people out there marching for women's rights. Where were you marching for women's rights when a woman on the job did not want to wear a ritualistic shame muzzle or bow down at the altar of the big pharma industrial complex? You want to keep your job, women? Then you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to jump through this hoop. Where was everybody going? Hey, women's rights, man. Women's rights. You don't have to submit, women. They were silent there, but now they're all of a sudden loud and boisterous because they can't snuff out a life. Oh my gosh. So interesting turn of events right there. Remember the 10th Amendment. It's violated so often, so many times. Another example of the 10th Amendment being violated is if a crime happens, maybe a high profile crime in your neighborhood, maybe it happened in your community. And then what do? They call the ATF. They call alcohol, tobacco, firearms. They call the FBI. They get federal agencies involved in a crime that supposedly happened in your community. It's a violation. And state agencies are more than willing to trample on the 10th Amendment. Oh, sure. Come on. Bring in the federal bureaucracy. Let's have them investigate. Let's bring FEMA in. See, all this, there's always a catch to having a federal blanket law over the entire country. Because now, if you got a federal law, now you can't escape the federal bureaucracy. Whereas if Texas made a horrible law, you could escape to Oklahoma, or Florida made a horrible law, you could go to Georgia or somewhere, California. If California makes a law, you can go to Oregon. Now, when you have a federal blanket, where are you going to go? You're going to have to go out of the country. That's why they wanted to blanket the country with the ERPOs, the Extreme Risk Protection Orders, also known as the red flag laws. I'll tell you what, guys, if you have a law enforcement agent who put his hand in the Bible and put his right hand toward heaven and said, I swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and then he becomes the very domestic terrorist he claimed to protect you from by executing an ERPO, Extreme Risk Protection Order, and all it takes is a phone call, guys. Somebody may have seen you in a grocery store, open carrying your firearm, and they got freaked out because, oh my gosh, those inanimate objects jump off of shelves and start killing a whole bunch of people. They get concerned about it. They make a call using 911, using the emergency services. I saw this guy and he looked real scary and he had a scary gun and I followed him home. I found out what his address is. He lives here and I feel like he could be a threat to himself and to other people in the community. You got to do something. And in some states, I think it's 14 states right now, they can execute that red flag law based on what some half-cocked nincompoop called in on you, which isn't, whether it's true or not, the law enforcement agency doesn't care. You're about to get swatted. 2:00 in the morning, they don't care. Big bolted door, hey, no problem. We'll bust that thing down. We'll tase your dog. We'll handcuff your wife, and we're going to steal all your firearms. If any law enforcement agent does that, he is actually not just come near that precious jewel. He's taken the precious jewel of liberty out of your life. And that's what I got a serious problem with on people like this right here. Oh, yeah. Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County, Florida, seems like a good guy. A lot of things that he says is very funny. His press briefings are pretty entertaining. I can see why when you scroll down, you've got, 8.6 thousand likes to only 171 dislikes. I can see why the people like this guy. I can see why they say things like, I love the way the police commander handled the press conference, especially how he takes his time to explain the story. We're going to go over this story. I'm going to play this recording and we're going to look at it, but we're going to look at it through the lenses of truth, justice, and what is right. But the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to define what crime is. What the heck is crime? Have you committed a criminal offense because some politician, one of the 535 in Washington's District of Criminals, claimed that you are now a criminal because you possess, you transport, you buy and sell alcohol like they did in the 1920s? Did something magical happen at 12 o'clock when that legislation went into action? Whereas at 11:59, you were perfectly fine to own, drink, sell, transport alcohol. But all of a sudden, when the clock struck 12 because the politician said so, now you've moved from the category of just regular person drinking a whiskey to criminal. You're a criminal because politicians say you're a criminal? Is that what crime is? Crime is by arbitrary edict of political psychopaths? Is that the way we want to? Is that law and order? Is that rule of law? Is that really what we all want to abide by? Or does that degrade society? Does that give a certain class of society more power over the rest of us? Yes, it does. Now you've got the political class and the law enforcement class doing their bidding. And then we have all of us second class citizens. You're not a citizen. You're not a denizen of the city, subject to the rules, laws, and ordinance because they said so. You're a human being. But these laws create classes of people, and it's by design. Because if we can create classes of people, then we can divide the people. If we can get people on board with our psychopathy and our tyranny, and they call that law and order and justice, well, then we've got people divided, because now you have people with a moral code who goes, hey, that is not justice. It's not justice to declare a person a criminal who's not harming, threatening to harm, or steal somebody else's stuff, because that is what a crime is. You have not committed, and if you disagree with this, I want to hear it, okay? Because knowledge doesn't begin and end with me. I could be completely wrong about this, but the way I see it, you have not committed a crime unless you've left a real material victim. No victim, no crime. For a crime to have been committed, you have to have victimized somebody. You have to have harmed them. You have to have threatened to harm them. You have to have stolen their stuff or damaged their property and not paid for it. That is what we call a victim. To sum this up, you have to have done something to infringe on somebody's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Because what is a right? So what is a crime? A crime is an action that leaves a victim. You harm them, you've threatened them, you've damaged their property, you've stolen their property. You've not committed a crime unless you've left a victim. So now we've got crime down. What is law? What is justice? Are laws legitimate? Have you really done wrong? Have you really committed an immorality if you did something that's illegal? There are things that are illegal that are perfectly right and just and human to do. It used to be illegal to free slaves. If you freed slaves, you have done that which is illegal. You have broken the law. What do you mean, Brian, you freed the slaves? What do you mean, Alexandria, you freed slaves? Do you not realize you broke the law? You've committed a criminal offense? Is it really a crime to free somebody from the shackles of liberty because the law says it's illegal? So not everything that's illegal is immoral, just like not everything that's legal is moral. And this plays out in the span of history, human history, time and time again. So we got to define crime. What is crime? What is legal? What is immoral? What are rights? What are rights? You have unalienable rights, by the way. They're not just regular rights. They're unalienable rights. In other words, nobody gave it to you and nobody can legitimately take it away from you. That's what rights are. That's what unalienable means. It means unalienable. Nobody can put a lien on your rights and claim that you owe some kind of debt. If you want your rights back, you got to do something. That's unalienable. Let's just real quick, before we get into Grady Judd here, let's go into the Declaration of Independence, because this is super important in the wording. Words mean something, okay? We hold these truths to be self-evident. I love that. It's like I don't have to prove to you that freeing slaves is right. You know it is. And why do you know it is? Because if you were a slave, you would want to be freed. If you were in a situation that you couldn't get out because your masters overpowered you and you didn't have any recourse, you would want to be freed. It's self-evident. You know it's right. You know you wouldn't want to be in a dungeon in shackles. And you know you would want somebody to bust through that door and take your shackles off and lead you to the land of freedom. That's what self-evident is. You know it's wrong to throw somebody into a cage because they possessed alcohol after a politician told them not to possess alcohol. You know that law is wrong. It's self-evident. But somehow, People have convinced themselves in their own minds and their hearts that if they have a badge, uniform, a gun, to come with the authority of the state, or they've been sanctioned with the legislative pixie dust and the blessings of the state to be a politician, to write these magical words on these fancy pieces of paper and fold them up and send them to the Supreme Court and get the approval of the president and the Supreme Court tyrants. If that thing becomes law, we have to obey it. And obviously it's wrong if they disobey it, right? We got to break ourselves from this. It's no measure of good mental health to be considered well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Just because a whole bunch of people think it's okay to throw this guy in jail because he transported alcohol after the politicians told him not to, doesn't make it right. Truth is the truth, even if no one believes it. And lies are still lies, even if everyone believes them. So we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, black men, yep, white men, yep, Asian men, yep, females, men, women, whatever you want to identify yourself as, all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Look at the definition of lien: a right to keep possession of property belonging to another person until a debt owed by that person is discharged. You can't put a lien on rights. You can't make somebody subservient to you until they pay off a debt for you to give them their rights back. You know why? Because you can't give rights and you can't take rights away. Not legitimately. There's all this pretense where people claim to be able to take away rights, but they can't do it. Not if you want to look at this with sobriety and common sense and morality. That among these, okay, what are your inalienable rights? It's real simple: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I'll add one more word there because I think Jefferson did: life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. And so what's government for? That to secure these unalienable rights of life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness, governments are instituted among men, deriving their and then this part right here that I got a serious problem with. A synonym for government is slavery. That's just the way it plays out. When you look at government, it comes from two Latin words, governo and mentis. Governo means to govern or control. Mentis means the mind, to control the mind. Government is all about control. Like Washington said, government is not eloquence. It's not reason. It is force. And like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Force! We're going to force you to do something. Oh, you're not going to comply? Well, guess what? Your freedoms shall now be removed. Deriving their just power. You can't be government. Is there such a thing called government in the minds of the people? Yeah, but it's not true in reality. Like Bastiat said, the state or government is that great fiction by which everyone seeks to live at the expense of everyone else. It is a grave injustice to be government because you're really trying to control other people against their will. And look at this says, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Another word for government is slavery. Another word for governed is enslaved. Consent of the enslaved? Slaves can't give their consent. That's why they're slaves. They've been overpowered by their masters. If they had recourse to free themselves, they would. Consent of the governed. So let's just forget about this right here. But supposedly, the purpose of government is to secure inalienable or unalienable rights of life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. And if anybody comes near that public liberty, you should suspect anybody that comes near it. And you should guard with jealous attention this public liberty. So based on that, we got Sheriff Grady Judd, who is the sheriff of Polk County. Polk County has around 700 and let's say 50,000 people, because this is a 2019 figure. So under his charge, he has about 750,000 people in Polk County, Florida. The population, just in case you wanted to know, the entire state of Florida is 21 million. So it's quite a segment, Polk County. And this sheriff right here is Sheriff Grady Judd. A lot of people like him. He's kind of charismatic. He's kind of funny. He's pretty entertaining. And it seems like he cares about law and order in Polk County. And so he's going to out this guy who's in the picture right here. This guy is David Roberts. He's 69 years old. He has worked for the last 12 years as a volunteer for the Sheriff's Department, having his own volunteer police cruiser with his own yellow lights and all that kind of stuff. Let's let Sheriff Grady Judd tell you about the fate now of this guy right here, David Roberts, and see if you can detect the tyranny that they're trying to project on the rest of the people in Polk County. This is what I get a serious problem with.
Now, there's things that when they come to your attention, you know that it has to be true because you can't make this stuff up.
Can you guys hear system audio? I just want to make sure before I go on. I have been known to play a video and people are like, hey, is the sound working on your end? Because I can't hear anything. By the way, real quick, Ann Trower, thank you for the $5 super chat. And Les Hicks, too many people and public tyrants conflate infractions of ordinances with crimes. I agree, Les. Thanks for that super chat, Les and Ann Trower. And I will get to the rest of the super chats a little bit later. But can you guys hear this? What's up, frickin' media? 5x5, you guys got it? Okay, cool. Here we go.
So our detectives come in to brief me and the chiefs and said, we've got information that one of our volunteer sheriff service officers, one of our volunteers, is selling oxycodone. We go, well, that's a shock. Out of the sheriff's patrol car that he's issued to drive when he volunteers. That's another shock. So we began an undercover investigation.
The audio's low. Let's see. Yeah, I'm only getting into, it's only in my left ear. Sorry guys, that's as high as I can go on the volume on this. That it's embedded in the YouTube video, so I don't know what else to do about the volume.
And we find out volunteer sheriff service officers are volunteers. They're the ones that with the yellow lights on the car, and they help direct traffic at crashes. They work minor crashes. They look for handicap violations. They help with school crossings. And what we find is David Roberts. He's 69 years old. He's been a volunteer for us for 12 years, a very good volunteer. People say that he's friendly.
He almost said people respect him. Apparently, this guy, as a sheriff's volunteer, I got a lot to say about that, but I won't. As a sheriff's volunteer for 12 years, he's had he'll even say stellar later. He has a stellar track record with the Sheriff's Department. Not sure if that would be a good thing or a bad thing. If you've got a, let's say you work for Al Capone, and Al Capone gets there behind a podium and he goes, Brian Young's been working for the mafia for 12 years and he has a stellar record with mafia agents. Well, that's good. Maybe that's good for the mafia. It's not good for everybody else in Chicago who are getting broken kneecaps because they didn't submit to Guido.
He's fun to be around. He's hardworking. And here's what we have discovered so far during this investigation. He gets about 90 oxycodone with Tylenol a month for pain. And he's gotten these for over 2 years. Now, I've got all kinds of other questions, like what doctor thinks he needs 90 oxys a month for over 2 years? But when he gets these 90 oxys, his pain's not that great, so he sells them. He sells them for $10 each.
Okay, so here's the lay of the land, okay? That's why I wanted to define crime and legal versus illegal and the legitimacy of legal versus illegal. Has David, what's his name again? David Roberts. Has David Roberts committed a crime yet? Sure, it looks weird. He's got a sheriff's volunteer uniform. He's driving a sheriff's vehicle. But are the oxycodones his? Are they his property? Yes, they are his property. Is he committing a crime if he enters into a consensual voluntary business transaction with somebody who wants a couple of them? I am not advocating that anybody go out there and sell drugs. I'm not advocating any illegal activity. I'm just asking you, is it a crime to sell your own property to somebody who wants to buy it from you under a consensual arrangement? Is that a crime? Has that left a victim? That's the question. That's what we need to be asking ourselves, because I can see how people can look at this and go, oxycodone gets $90 a month and he's selling them for $10 a piece. He's basically become a drug dealer. Is it a crime? Ask yourself a question. Is it a crime to be a drug dealer? Because if it's a crime to be a drug dealer, then all the CVS, Rite Aid, Walmart, and Walgreens pharmacists are dealing drugs in your community. Oh, but that's legal. Oh, okay. So now we have to depend on who says that drug dealer can operate on that corner, but these drug dealers can't operate on that corner, and they definitely can't operate out of a police cruiser, a police-issued cruiser in Polk County, Florida.
Well, we infiltrate him with an undercover detective, and we find out that he's being paid $10 a piece for these. So he's making $900 a month selling his prescription drugs on the street.
Trying to feed his family because he's not getting paid a dime as a volunteer for the sheriff's department.
So now we're in competition with the street drug dealers. So we said, we'll give you...
And if it's one thing we know about government, they do not like competition and will take every opportunity they can to squash their competition so that they can be the only rulers on the block with the monopoly on force and power to boot.
$12.
I am aware that this video is going to tick a lot of people off, especially people who like Sheriff, Grady Judd, especially people who like the concept of law and order. All I'm asking you to do is ask yourself honest questions. What is a crime? Is it truly a crime when somebody writes an arbitrary law and now you've crossed the line? Now you've done something they said not to do, or you didn't do something they said to do. What is a crime? What is justice? What are your rights? Is this something that we should even be talking about? Is this guy right here innocent until proven guilty instead of guilty until proven innocent?
Okay. So he says, I'll set the location for the transaction. So we go, okay. And it's the racetrack, Highway 60 in Lake Wells. So our undercover pulls into the racetrack, dials the suspect up on the phone and said, hey man, I'm looking for you. Where are you? He said, I'm over here in the corner. Our undercover says, you in the Popo car? He goes, yeah. He won't be in it for long, but he's in it now. So we go there. He has taken the oxys out of the prescription bottle, put them in a plastic baggie, and is counting the money.
So now he has a problem with a man selling his own prescription medication to another person, but he doesn't, Sheriff Grady Judd doesn't have a problem with another badged, uniformed agent of the Polk County Sheriff's Department operating out of his cruiser, conducting a drug interdiction investigation where he's stealing money through civil asset forfeiture. And that truly leaves a crime, because it truly leaves a victim. He doesn't have a problem somebody operating out of a cruiser catching somebody doing 12 miles or 12 miles, 15 miles an hour over the speed limit and giving them a $230 ticket, which is basically roadside extortion. See, he doesn't have a problem with road piracy operating out of his Polk County Sheriff's Department cruisers, but all of a sudden he has a problem with a guy operating out of his cruiser, engaging in a mutually consensual voluntary business transaction where somebody wants what he's got and they got the money that he wants. So you have a contradiction here. You have hypocrisy going on here. On the one hand, you have the road pirates actually leaving material victims in the community. And you have this guy right here, this Robert, I keep forgetting his name, David Roberts, who's operating out of a cruiser, not harming anybody. As a matter of fact, providing a product and a service. And I'm not endorsing the sale of prescription medication. I'm trying to make a point that this guy is trying to make something a crime that isn't, while he takes real crimes and turns a blind eye to it and actually applauds it.
Before he turns the drugs over to us, why he's wearing his uniform. Listen, folks, that makes me crazy. That makes me so crazy I want to pluck my eyeballs out one at a time. So we complete the deal. We allow him to drive away. We follow him. And he pulls into the substation. So we arrest.
But somebody in Goddess says drugs have destroyed my family. Guess what has destroyed families more than drugs? The drug war. And it's not a war on drugs. I don't do drugs. I don't suggest that anybody do drugs. I understand that innocent people get hooked on drugs because maybe they got into that car accident and maybe they have a debilitating spinal injury and maybe they're dealing with pain that's racking them every single day and they just want some relief. So they go to a doctor and they get oxycodone or some opiate or opioid, whatever they call them. I understand that. And then these people get addicted to it. They get hooked on it. Now they can't do without it. And then when they try to get off of it, they got, all these other problems. Yeah, the drug war is a war on freedom. Drugs haven't destroyed anything. Governments destroy stuff. And I understand people get hooked on drugs and it's not like they didn't go into it trying to abuse drugs. They went into it trying to get away from pain. And now they got to deal with, withdrawals because they're trying to get off of it and they can't. Now their bodies become so acclimated to having that drug in their system that their body starts thinking that it needs that. And now it goes into convulsions and really puts you through the ringer until you put that drug back in the system again and you got to wean yourself off it. So again, I understand how dangerous this kind of thing is, but something more dangerous is the drug war, the war on drugs, which is a euphemism for a war on people. Hey, this is the 1970s law by Nixon saying public enemy number one is drug addiction and abuse. No, public enemy number one is and has always been government. So you're going to use the drug war as a justification to create the prison industrial complex. And by the way, one of the reasons we have the majority of the drugs on the street, especially opioids, is because back in the early 2000s, some event happened that we can't talk about on certain social media platforms where the U.S. military-industrial complex commandeered and took control over 90% of the world's opium trade in Afghanistan. So now you got the CIA running drugs, and they're the biggest drug dealers while you have the people in other agencies claiming that if we catch you with the drugs, you're going up the river for a long time. CIA agent, A-OK. U.S. military-industrial complex watching the poppy fields of Afghanistan so that 90% of the world's opium can be distributed abroad, A-OK. You with a bag of weed, you're going down, son. The war on drugs is not a war on drugs. It's not a war on inanimate objects. It's just like these euphemisms they use, gun violence. There's no such thing as gun violence. Just like there's no such thing as baseball bat violence, razor blade violence, scissor violence, rock violence. They call it gun violence so that they can vilify guns and villainize the person who holds them so they can institute a gun ban or a gun buyback program, a confiscation program. And then if you continue to hold these firearms that they don't think you should have, well, then you're a criminal. So it's a euphemism. It's not, there's no gun violence. People do violence to people. The gun didn't do anything. It's an inanimate object. But they use these euphemisms, war on drugs, gun violence, so that they can vilify things, so that they can exert more control over the people. More control over the people means more power for the government, and you get relegated to second-class citizen as they continue to trample your rights. But if you sensitize yourself to what liberty truly is, what rights truly are, and what a crime actually is, you can see through all this nonsense. Can drugs be very, very, very bad for some people? Yes. But don't you have the unalienable right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness? And your idea of the pursuit of happiness could be completely different from my idea of the pursuit of happiness. As long as your pursuit of happiness does not include harming somebody, threatening to harm somebody, take their stuff, or damage their property and not pay for it, you can do whatever you want to. You can smoke whatever you want to. You put into your body whatever you want to. It's none of my business, and it definitely isn't the government's business. You can harm your body if you want to. You're free to do that. If you're not free to harm your body, this ain't the land of the free, home of the brave. If you're not free to keep 100% of your income without some third-party domestic terror cell called the IRS coming in and taking a percentage of your income, stealing it, then you're not free. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men living together in society, they create for themselves, in the course of time, a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code which glorifies it. This guy is involved in a legal system that authorizes true crime while he calls people who aren't criminals, innocent people, criminals, like this guy. Let's listen to some more of this. But this is one of those interesting things where it'd be easy to take it at face value and just to trust this guy. He looks like he's got a trustworthy face. He's funny. He's entertaining. He kind of lets your guard down. And it's like, sure, yeah. If the sheriff says he engaged in criminal activity, he engaged in criminal activity. This cop is going to make the argument that this guy, this David Roberts, should go to jail, should be caged for 15 years. 15 years of his life should be taken away from him because he engaged in a consensual voluntary business transaction out of a police cruiser.
Him in the parking lot of the substation. And he's affable, and he's cooperative, and he signs a waiver and lets us search his house where we find some marijuana. He says, it's not mine, it's my nephew's.
So they use this as a justification. So the guy let the cops search his house. What if the guy said, I don't consent? Well, guess what they would do? They would go get a warrant. No warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause. Hey, we have probable cause. He was operating, basically a drug stand out of a police cruiser. So of course we have to go search his house. There's violations all over the place on behalf of the police department. Violations of this guy's rights. Now, yes, this guy said he could go, according to this sheriff, if he's telling the truth. But now listen to what they found when they went into his house.
I'm just holding it for him. Well, why is it in your bedroom? I don't know. I'm just holding it for him.
Marijuana.
And then we find two guns, a rifle and a pistol. Well, that's okay until we run a criminal history. Are you ready for this? You're talking about an epic system failure. He's a convicted felon from 52 years ago.
So the guy's 69 now. 52 years ago, he was like 18, 19 years old. So he committed a crime, they say. You know, that's another thing too. When the cops say a crime was committed and this person went to jail and this person is a felon, nothing is as it seems. I think of Kevin Strickland, who was pinned with a triple homicide in Missouri, and he goes to jail for 42 years. It was discovered soon after they pinned him with the triple homicide that not only was he not there, but the people who actually committed the crime admitted to committing the crime, saying Kevin Strickland had nothing to do with this. Guess what happened to those two guys who actually did commit the triple homicide? They each served 10 years. Kevin Strickland stayed in jail for over 4 decades. He was innocent. The prosecuting attorney and his team knew he was innocent. The entire community knew he was innocent. The judge knew he was innocent, and they still kept him in jail for 42 years. So when a cop comes along and says, oh yeah, Kevin Strickland is a felon, you don't believe them. Do some investigation. Could they be telling the truth by some off chance? They could be, but typically they're trained to lie. They're trained to make people look bad so that it can make them look good. He's trying to show the people that, hey, this Sheriff Grady Judd is trying to get people to think that Polk County Sheriff's Office is look, we're transparent. We're blowing the whistle on our own people. If we see something wrong, we're going to tell you about it because justice must be served. They're calling this guy, they're saying this guy is a felon for something that he did as a stupid kid. Let's say he did do it, okay? He did it 52 years ago, but they're still going to call him a felon? You're a felon for the rest of your life, and now you can't have a personal protection device because you're a felon because the law said you can no longer own a firearm because you're a felon. That's unconstitutional. Oh, so now because you made a mistake when you were a kid, you give up your right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. Nonsense. Nonsense.
That's right. When he was 19, he was arrested for a burglary and convicted.
He was arrested for a burglary and convicted. Maybe he didn't do it. Maybe he did. He was being a dumb kid. Have you ever done something stupid and you're glad, wow, I'm glad that wasn't made public because I probably would have gone to jail for that. When I was a little kid, I think I stole like a candy bar or something from the store. What if they go, well, we're throwing the book at you. You're going to be a felon for the rest of your life. Or you know what? You could actually have a, what's it called? You could have a sex charge put against you if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you got to go to the bathroom real bad and you start peeing on the side of the road and a cop rolls up on you. They could actually put you on the sex offender list. At least they could in California in 2005. I don't know if they've changed that law. But you could literally be put on a sex offender list because you couldn't hold you. You're in the middle of nowhere. There's no gas station around. It's like, dude, I have got to go. And there ain't no bottle in the car. I'm going right now. Cop rolls up on you. Boom. If he's being a jerk and he's being vindictive, you can actually go on a sex offenders list because you're trying to drain the main vein on the side of the road. Crazy stuff. So if if a cop tells me that a person is a felon, I don't just automatically believe him, because there's a high probability that the guy that they're calling a felon was actually innocent. But if he wasn't, okay, he did something stupid. He committed a burglary 52 years ago. Now he can no longer defend himself with a firearm. Is that just?
He goes, I can't be a convicted felon. I've been voting all the way back to Nixon. Did you hear what I said? So we have done an administrative look at our volunteer files.
Besides that, if you want to talk about a true felony, if you want to talk about true crimes, nobody can rival the crimes that are piled up by law enforcement and political officials. Nobody. You can't get close. Or banksters. Corporate oligarchs, they're committing more crimes. You can't ring up $30 trillion in debt unless you're a politician, a bankster, or a law enforcer. We went over that Arkansas case where a couple driving through Arkansas on I-40 was robbed by the Arkansas State Troopers to the tune of $332,000. No criminal conviction. Nobody said that they did anything wrong. It's just, hey, you got a whole bunch of money and we want it for our law enforcement agency and for the federal agencies so we can split it 80-20. That's a crime that you and I can't get away with committing, but they can because they have qualified immunity.
And they just missed it. They just flat missed it. Volunteers don't go through the normal HR detailed polygraph system that full-time employees do. They're donating time. But there's to be a complete background run on him And 12 years ago, of course, the person that did it is long gone. Apparently, either didn't do it completely, had a failure. We're embarrassed. We're embarrassed.
But you're not embarrassed by road piracy? Piracy. Piracy? You're not embarrassed by road piracy? You're not embarrassed by extreme risk protection orders? You're not embarrassed by planting drugs on innocent people so that you can, fill the prison industrial complex? You're not embarrassed by initiating drug laws and civil asset forfeiture laws? This embarrasses you, but that doesn't? It's like you're looking at a Mount Everest of true criminal activity coming out of the law enforcement agency, and they're looking at this little speck done by David Roberts here.
Mr. David Roberts, though, should recognize that selling 90 oxycodones is a 15-year minimum mandatory.
Wow. Did you hear that? That's what I wanted to get at right there. They want to take away this guy's freedom and lock him in a cage because he harmed who? Oh, he harmed no one. He stole from who? Oh, he stole from no one. He threatened who? Oh, there were no threats. They want to take him out for 15 years. Amber Geiger, who shot Botham Jean in his own living room, sitting on his own couch, eating his own ice cream, watching a movie, got only 10 years, and she'll be out this year, they say, because of good behavior. She'll be out on parole. But they want to put this, and she took a man's life. This guy only, and I'm only saying only in the context of Amber Geiger taking Botham Jean's life, he only was selling items to people who wanted them. He wasn't forcing them. He made an arrangement. The other person liked the terms of the agreement, and they both benefited. But they want to put him away for 15 years, and Amber Geiger is going to be out in like a year and a half, 2 years. It's unconscionable.
And we're going to help him get every day of that in prison. He admitted, well, I've embarrassed the agency. That's the understatement of the day.
I've embarrassed the agency.
But as is our policy at the sheriff's office.
I didn't force anybody to do anything against their will. I didn't violate consent. I sure didn't trample on anybody's freedoms, but I embarrassed the agency.
Transparency. Somebody messed up 12 years ago on a background. He's been a stellar volunteer.
Stellar, there you go.
Very well loved, done a good job. Oh, except when he's selling oxys out of the car, you see, using it as cover. I am livid.
What he should be livid about and what he should truly do. He should come to Jesus moment, and behind him should be a backdrop of the faces of every law enforcement agent who ticketed somebody when they wouldn't ticket themselves, who conducted a civil asset forfeiture or a drug raid. And he should put all those badged enemies of the people up and say, I am livid that up to this point in time, the Polk County Sheriff's Department has been engaged in mafia-like criminal activity. And it makes me sick. And we're going to stop it now. There's going to be no more drug laws. ERPO's extreme risk protection orders. Here's the order right here from the President of the United States. Not going to do it. They say you're a felon. I want everybody here to consider arming and protecting themselves. Gun laws, there are not going to be any gun laws in my state because I am livid. I am livid that we have been acting as road pirates. We've been acting as a blight on humanity. We've been suppressing and strangling the freedom right out of you. And it ain't going to happen anymore. Not on my watch, Sheriff Grady Judd should say. But that's not what he's talking about. He's livid about a mutual, consensual, voluntary business transaction.
I am hotter than a bear butt on a tin roof in August.
That's why people like him, because it's funny.
And there will be all our volunteer systems audited. Oh, by the way, we don't have that many VSSOs. We've already checked all the other files and re-audited them. They're all pristine except for this one.
Because I'm going to tell you right here, standing behind this podium, we only hire power-hungry, power-tripping psychopaths. If you're not willing to drink the Kool-Aid that the Thin Blue Line gang is going to put under your nose, we don't want you. But we will get rid of this guy and send him up the river for 15 years.
All of them. Well, it makes sense. This is the one that should have been screened out 12 years ago and wasn't. So, in Polk County vernacular, if there's been any misunderstanding, I'm pissed. He's going to prison, I hope, for 15 years.
Listen to this.
Not counting his weapons charges.
Weapons charges.
Is there any questions?
That he would put weapons charges on this guy is a violation of his oath to the Second Amendment. Right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So Sheriff Grady Judd is not only going to infringe on his right, he's going to slap weapons charges, which is going to extend his 15-year hopeful prison sentence by Mr. Judd.
You said that volunteers don't go through the same stringent checks as full-time employees, but there are background checks?
There are background checks. There are complete background checks. Volunteers go through a much greater background check than employees in the private world. And had this background check been done appropriately 12 years ago, he wouldn't be here. It wasn't done appropriately. It slipped through the process.
So what's the projection there? If you made a mistake early on in life and you actually did commit a crime, but now you're a completely different person. Hopefully you are a completely different person at 69 than you were at 19. If you're not, there's something wrong with you. But usually people realize their mistakes. That's not the way we get along in society. I do not want to be harming somebody or stealing their stuff. I'm completely against that now. But now he's projecting that you will never have a chance because you will always be a felon. Always. Once a felon, always a felon. They would have never become a volunteer. This guy could be the best person in the entire world, but he just made a mistake 52 years ago, and it'll always be held against you. That's the unforgiveness. But when they commit dastardly crimes, I just keep thinking about Botham John. I keep thinking about James Boyd, Mesa, Arizona, Daniel Shaver. Philip Brailsford kills Daniel Shaver in that La Quinta Inn in Mesa, Arizona, pops him 5 times with an AR-15. You know what it said on the dust jacket. Philip Brailsford acquitted of murder in broad daylight on camera, but because he had a police uniform on and a badge and the authority of the state and the coverage of the Mesa Police Department and qualified immunity, he gets to walk away. But not this guy. Oh, no. Oh, you did something under voluntary means. You're going to jail, boy. And that doesn't even count the weapons charges.
We have over 3,000 volunteers at the Sheriff's Office. We are grateful for our volunteers, and we love them. They do so much good work and value added for the community, and this guy's embarrassed every one of them with his nonsense.
How about Kelly Thomas? Kelly Thomas was beaten by a gang of Thin Blue Line members till he expired. When he was laying in that hospital bed, he was unrecognizable. He's a homeless guy, begging for his life, calling for his dad, but they wouldn't get off his chest. They wouldn't stop tasing him. They wouldn't stop pounding him in the head. And this guy's going to make a big deal out of this, what this guy did with his own medication?
But he's going to pay. He's going to pay a significant price upon conviction in the criminal justice system, and he has already. He's sitting in the county jail right now.
He's so proud of that.
He doesn't need to worry about ever driving our car again. He doesn't need to worry about eating peanut butter and jelly in the jail. But he does need to know that, hey, at 69 years of age, man, by the time trial's over with, you'll probably be out of prison by the time you're 84.
Wow.
Did he say how long he was doing that in the prison? Or in the
First time.
Oh.
First time. Although we have evidence to the contrary, he's been selling his oxys every month. But I've got lots of questions outside of this. What physician gives you 90 oxys a month?
There was a comment down here. There was a guy who said, "Hey, I totally understand what you're saying about the 90 oxys a month, but my back pain was so bad after an accident, they were giving me 120, and each one only lasted like 4 to 6 hours, and he basically needed more." So he's making a big deal out of this oxy. It was the guy's own property that he was selling to other people who wanted it, and he's making a big deal like this is the crime of the century, and he needs to go to jail for 15 years. I put you know what? Here, I'll tell you what. I'm going to leave. This is the link to this video right here. I'm curious to see your responses to this video, but I put, here's my input under the video. I don't usually write under videos, but I kind of felt compelled to in this case, just to break the cloud of deception that lays thick over people's minds. 15 years in a cage for selling his own medicine to others in a voluntary consensual business transaction. No one was harmed. There was no victim. Cops economically terrorize, harass, and arrest innocent people every single day. Weapons charges? How? I put who. How can a person have weapons charges when there's a Second Amendment unless the guns were stolen? I hate misspellings here. How? Autocorrect. So I dropped the link to this guy's video in the chat room. There's only 45 seconds left. We'll watch the rest of it.
For years. Because you have pain. I mean, this guy, I'm not suggesting there isn't demonstrable pain in some people that go on generationally. He ain't one of them. He comes to work. He told someone, I got gout in my big toe. Well, you know, he's giving me pain too, but I'm not going to get any oxys for it.
So that is Sheriff Grady Judd from the Polk County Sheriff's Department in Florida making a big deal out of something that wasn't even a crime. And he wants somebody who didn't commit a crime to go to jail for 15 years. More than 15 years, because they want to put a weapons charge on him as well. What's up, NC Tire and Hunter? J.R. Raven says, hope Lizzie's doing better. Hey, does anybody have any... yes, she is doing a little bit better. She's got a big uphill battle, but I really appreciate you asking that question, J.R. Raven. Before we go on, though, I want to close this video out. The reason I wanted to do this video is because we got to define crime. We got to define what law is. In my opinion, a law is an opinion of a politician backed by the threat of law enforcement force. You got to define what's justice. What are unalienable rights? Do we have unalienable rights? Will cops allow us to have unalienable rights? And I say that loosely because nobody can allow you to do anything unless you're a kid in your parents' house. There's your allowance. When you go out of your house and you're an adult, no adult can lay claim to your life and property to the point where, oh, will you allow me to go hunting? Here, do I need to get a permission slip? How much is it going to cost? That's what government specializes in, taking away your rights and selling them back to you so you can do the thing that you could do before you bought your rights back from the government who shouldn't have taken them in the first place. It's an upside down world. And I said the quote before, but I'll say it again. It's no measure of good mental health to be considered well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. It just isn't. When you get a group of men together and they decide, hey, it's a good idea if we go ahead and legalize immorality and make morality illegal. Because think about it. Let's say you want to grow a certain plant in your backyard, a certain plant that begins with a C or an M, depending on how you look at it. Say you want to grow cannabis, full THC cannabis in your backyard. If you're not free, not allowed, if you're not free to do that, this isn't the land of the free, home of the brave. If you have to pay for a medical marijuana license to go ahead and get that plant matter, basically it's your license, it's your permission. Oh, okay, you're free to do this now because we say. You're free to do this now because you just paid. If you're not free to do that anyway without a license, without some other person's permission, this isn't the land of the free, home of the brave. It's the land of the fee, which would make it the home of the slave, because they're basically saying you can't do this thing that you have the right to do unless you pay me first, unless you get my permission first. And when this guy's standing up behind the podium, ignoring the massive, titanic oceans full of garbage that their police force is involved in, and harming, threatening to harm, steal people's property, civil asset forfeiture, drug laws, and all the unconstitutional things that they do every single day, ignore that and then focus on this tiny molehill of a nothing operating out of a police cruiser selling this person's own private property, which I'm not, again, with the algorithms, I'm not endorsing selling your prescription medication. But is it a crime? Is it a crime according to the measure of justice, not according to the measure of the legal system? Because you got to guard with jealous attention the public liberty. You got to suspect everyone who approaches that precious jewel. Patrick Henry finished it out by saying, unfortunately, nothing will preserve it. What's the it that nothing will preserve? The liberty won't be preserved except through downright force. And when you give up that force, you're utterly ruined. But what happens when somebody has a monopoly on force and brutality in your community? And you can't set up a competing security force in your neighborhood because they won't let you. And if you try to, well, that's illegal and you're going down, buddy. So all I want to do with this video right here is get people to think, hey, what is crime? Is there really a crime if there's no victim? Did the guy really commit a crime? Does this guy deserve to have 15 years of his life taken away in a cage somewhere? Plus, more if they put the weapons charges on him for just doing something in a voluntary, consensual format? Ask yourself that question. And it's kind of like Lysander Spooner said, if taxation without consent is not robbery, then any band of robbers can get together and declare themselves government and all their robberies will be legalized. Just because their robberies are legalized and it's okay with a mass of people under the banner of law and order, just because they're initiating deprivation of rights under color of law doesn't make it right. And the people who are basically in the thin blue line mafia, it's laughable that they're looking down on the rest of us going, oh no, yeah, you committed a crime and you need to go to jail for that. So that's how I want to end this. It's no measure of good mental health to be considered well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. If your well-adjustment to a profoundly sick society is to call this right here justice, you better rethink that. Because according to natural law and according to everything you know that is right and good and fair and just and moral in this world, and according to self-evidence, like the Declaration of Independence says, it's self-evidently wrong to send somebody up the river and cage them for 15 years for what that guy did, in my opinion. Kidnapping is legal for cops, says David Leeds. NC Tyrant Hunter says, hey, y'all, help me get up to 100,000 subscribers and I will return the favor. Thanks, Ann. Let me read some super chats here. Ann Trower with $5. Les Hicks, message was too many people and public servants conflate infractions of ordinances with crimes. Yes, they do. And that's the whole reason for laws. Laws serve two purposes. Number one, they serve the purpose of stripping you of your power. I guess three purposes if you were to divide number one up into two. Number one, they strip you of your freedoms, which reduces your power. Number two, that power goes somewhere. There's a power transfer somewhere. And it goes to the state, so the state gets stronger and we individually get weaker. And the third thing that it does is it makes us less rich. We become poorer because those laws extract wealth from us. So it takes away your power and it takes away your wealth. And that power and wealth is transferred to the state. When the state gets more powerful, we lose more of our rights. And that's the whole reason for laws. It's to make freedoms null and void. What did Marbury versus Madison conclude? It said if anything, if a law becomes something like, if it goes against the Constitution, it is therefore null and void. What did Lysander Spooner said about the Constitution? Whether the Constitution be one thing or another, this much is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. Guys, we have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in our persons, houses, papers, and effects. But these law enforcement agents, like Sheriff Grady Judd here, specialize in taking away those rights, in trampling those rights, and making you insecure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects. So how is the Constitution protecting us when these guys specialize in, and their profession is all about trampling those rights? They even take an oath before God and everybody. I promise I will protect your right to be secure in your person's house and papers effect. Open up, Sheriff's Department. We're about to knock this door down because we heard that you have burning plant matter in there that our politicians said you shouldn't have. What's the use of having it if it's not going to keep them out? You should be safe in your vehicle. You should be safe in your hotel room. You should be safe in your house. You should be safe on the public sidewalks. But these people specialize in making you insecure. So yeah, I agree, Les Hicks. Too many people and public servants conflate infractions of ordinances with crimes. That is the problem. People literally think that if you broke the law, you have committed a crime. People literally think that if you don't do what the political parasitic psychopaths tell you to do, you've committed a crime. Or if you don't do what they tell you to do, or if you do what they tell you not to do. It's just what an upside down world. Redneck News Decatur sent a $10 super chat. Thanks for that. Grady Judd tells you to buy guns, lots of guns, so when somebody breaks into your house. Yeah, of course. I dealt with that on a video about half a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago. Yeah, he'll tell you. Guys, this guy will tell you the right thing, but then he'll violate your rights. Do you think Al Capone was 100% evil and he never did nice things? Do you think Adolf Hitler and the Nazi SS never did nice things? I'm not saying that they're not going to get some things right, but the overall umbrella, it's kind of like this. Here's let me say it like this. Who said that? El Bohike? El Bohike says, Grady Judd tells you to buy guns, lots of guns, so when somebody breaks into your house, you can shoot them and shoot them a lot. Yes, and that's a good thing because your home is your castle. But let's put it like this. Let's say there's a husband and wife, and for 365 days out of the year, the husband was super nice to this woman, totally respectful, opened doors for her, did everything, just loved her like a woman has never been loved. But on the 365th day, he would beat her senseless. You and I, because we're normal, would forget about the 364 days of paradise, and we would focus on the one day of absolute torment. It's not that these cops can't do good things, because they're out there doing good things all the time. It's that their good things are erased by all the mountains, Everest-like mountains and oceans filled with evil things that they do against us every single day. And so to focus on those, but look, he helped get Mary Lou's kitty out of the tree. Oh, look, we have a video of this cop right here bending down to a little, inner city kid and buying him a Happy Meal. It's not that they're not doing nice things. It's that their profession is all about exacting tyranny on the land. That's what we got to call out. That's why I contend there are no good cops. There are three kinds of cops: the cops who commit evil, the cops who see the evil committed and say nothing, and then the cops who aren't going to be cops for very long because now they become whistleblowers within the thin blue line department and they can't have that. So they're out of there. If you're a cop that turns good, you're not going to be a cop for very long because they cannot tolerate do-gooder cops. Let's see. see what you guys are saying in the chat. Here lies Kitty Thomas. I can grow hemp if I open my front door to ATF and the feds. Surprise visits at any time. Yeah, that's another thing. There are certain states, I'm not sure if Oklahoma's like that, but if you get your medical marijuana license, then you can't buy a gun. Wow. That's the law, and if you break that law, you're a criminal, right? Oh, yeah, he's a criminal, of course. Grady Judd says he's a criminal. He should go to jail. Can you believe all that? And that's where zombies come from. Zombies are like, that's why you should stay out of the cult of personality. That's why you should put down the Kool-Aid. Stop drinking it. Stop cementing yourself in cognitive dissonance. There are a lot of people who just believe what Grady Judd said, and they're like, and they don't lift up the covers. They don't turn over the stones. They don't ask those questions. What is crime? Have I committed a crime if I broke a law? If I do something illegal, does that mean I'm immoral? Is this guy the arbiter of justice? Should this guy go to jail for 15 years because of what he sold out of the police cruiser? Nobody questions. Question everything. Question everybody. Don't check into the cult of personality. Don't put your name over a door and say, this is where I die. Something I wanted to point out. If you want to join my membership thing here on YouTube, it's $2.99. My commitment to you is I'm going to continue putting out videos, these thought-provoking videos. If you think I'm wrong about anything, leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't just hit the dislike and go, unsubbed, I'm out of here. You're a freaking libtard lunatic. Guys, if you know anything about me, Democrats and Republicans, I call them Demoplicans and Republicrats. They're two wings of the same bird of prey. I'm not involved in any political party. All I want is freedom. All I want is to be left alone. I want my children to be left alone. I want you to be left alone. I want your children to be left alone. I think that the Zio international bankers have ruined everything. The political parasites, the 535 in the halls of Congress, which should be called regress, are criminals, sinking our future unborn generations into transgenerational debt slavery, the likes of which we will never recover. Closing the gold window on August 15th, 1971. Decoupling the fiat currency from precious metals. Big mistake. And then getting with King Faisal in Saudi Arabia in the 1970s, 74 and 75, getting with OPEC, creating the petrodollar reserve Ponzi scheme. So that all the other nations have to buy the US dollar, and that's why we haven't entered into a serious hyperinflation cycle, and I mean serious hyperinflation cycle, because we are at the cusp of hyperinflation right now. When you've got bread going up from $2.49 a loaf to $3.49 a loaf, chicken from $1.99 to $2.97, you're starting to see the beginnings of Zimbabwe style inflation, hyperinflation. And it's not even warmed up yet. You know, one day you'll not only be a millionaire, you'll not only be a billionaire, one day soon, if you stick around long enough, you'll be a trillionaire. They had to start making $100 trillion notes in Zimbabwe, guys. Let me show you one. If you've never seen $100 trillion Zimbabwe notes. I actually have one. I actually own one of these. $100 trillion from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Somebody's selling this for $252 on Amazon. That's hilarious. You will, there's a show called you want to be a millionaire. Oh, you'll be a millionaire. You'll be a billionaire. When hyperinflation's done with us, we'll probably be quadrillionaires, because that's what it's going to take for you to buy that loaf of bread. Remember what happened in Weimar Republic in Germany? They were wheelbarrowing money. They were wheelbarrowing it. Let's go to hyperinflation in Germany. They were burning money because it was cheaper to burn the notes than it was. See this lady right here? She's stuffing her furnace with fiat. Here, let me show you this. Why? Because it was cheaper to do that than to use the money to buy wood. Little kids were playing with it, stacking it up like Monopoly money, because that's truly what it is. The only reason there's value is because it's all perception. It's a perception game. It's a mind game. And other nations have to buy US dollars so that they can buy their energy source, which is oil. That's how it is right now. But we have Russia and China, among other nations, who are trying to get away from that. And when nations have tried to get away from that, like Saddam Hussein, well, what did we do? We went to invade his land. Why? Because he wanted to get off of the world reserve currency US dollar and go to the euro. Gaddafi in Libya, we invaded that guy. And he's no longer with us, they say. Why? Because he wanted to get rid of the dollar reserve currency and go to the gold-based dinar. Steve Harloa drops a $10 super chat and says, from me and Joe Ramirez, his super chat won't let him send. I got you, Joe Ramirez. Much love and aloha, everyone. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. You're gonna see dollars in the street. There was another one where they were sweeping it out of the streets. Where is it? I don't know. There was one. Look, they're making a kite out of this one. Right? People are getting real creative with their fiat. Wheelbarrows full of money. Sweeping it out of the street, plastering it on your wall because it's more decorative than any wallpaper you could buy. We're heading there, and that's why we want to resist tyranny. That's why I have this. The end result of why I have this channel is because I don't want my children or your children or me or you to deal with this kind of thing. But we're heading there. So all we can do is try to set brush fires of freedom in the minds of men as long as we can, as long as we're on the internet, as long as we're able. Joe Ramirez says, just restarted my smartphone. Was it not letting you do a super chat, or what's the deal with that? Your money is your labor. There is no money. Yeah, well, there is money. There is money, but it's a representation of your time and laboring energies. Money, anything could be money. A chicken egg can be money. Here, I'll give you 10 chicken eggs if you give me that pound of bacon. That's money. That's your medium of exchange. It's just that you can't carry eggs around with you. You can't carry 150 pounds of bacon with you every time you want to do a transaction. And besides, even if you could, maybe not everybody wants bacon. Maybe not everybody wants eggs. But they probably want something that represents your time and laboring energy that we've all agreed on. Actually, fiat currency is a good idea because you think about it. Would you want to carry 50 pounds of gold coins with you everywhere you go? No, it's very inconvenient, very laborsome. There's nothing wrong with fiat currency as long as it's finite and as long as it's backed by something that everybody generally agrees is valuable. And typically what that's been is gold and silver over 5,000 years. The reason gold and silver hasn't gone through the roof right now is because it's being manipulated. It's being manipulated with paper trading and ETFs, and it's artificially suppressed. Some say that the price of an ounce of silver right now should be $400 to $600. That gold should be like $40,000. As a matter of fact, if you look at the national debt clock, website, a lot of people like to hone in on the national debt of the $30 trillion, which is almost $30.5 trillion right now. A couple things I want to point out is they don't ever look at the unfunded liabilities. If you go down here to the very bottom on the right, it shows national debt, including unfunded liabilities. Because when you're looking at that 30 trillion number right here, when you're looking at this 30 trillion number, that doesn't count unfunded liabilities like Social Security and Medicaid. If you put in Social Security, Medicare, it's almost at $170 trillion. And I'm going to go ahead and beat the gelatinized horse that I've been beating for the last 5 years. But $1 trillion here it is in kind of a word picture for you. If you received $1 every second that you were alive, that's $86,400 a day. Or $31.5 million a year. How long would you have to live to collect your first $1 trillion? This is how massive a sum $1 trillion is. You'd have to live for 31,000 709 years to collect your first $1 trillion at $1 every second you were alive. But we're $170 trillion in debt, according to the national debt clock. And then something I wanted to show you about the gold and silver ratio right here. Oh, wow. They've added some stuff to this. Everything's kind of rearranged here. The paper to gold ratio right now is 110.93 to 1. The paper to silver ratio is 353.75 to 1. The dollar to gold ratio is $18,131 per ounce. Back in 1913, it was 28.65. So that shows you what kind of inflation we have against the dollar against gold. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. Please do me a favor. Share this video with everybody you know. If you haven't hit the like, there's 251 in here, 290. Oh, can we get 300 likes? There's 299 likes. Who will be the 300th like? The best way you can support this channel is just like it and share it with everybody you know. It's free to do that. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell notification icon. Tell your friends about it. Let's change this world, because that's what it's all about. Charity says, first elite laws got unlawfully arrested. Now Thai audits despicable acts of tyranny. Do you guys, hey, 313 likes. Thank you guys. Appreciate you doing that. Hitting the like button really helps with the algorithms. Basically, when you hit that like button, you're doing this to YouTube and their algorithms. And you basically boost the algorithm. If you feel like this video is valuable, this channel is valuable, that will really go a long way in defeating the algorithms that are against us. Money is a mental concept. I know, and we're people with minds, so it's necessary. I'm like 369. Oh, do you guys see more? I only see 335 in the room. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Share this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me under the video, the chat under the video or the comment section, or email me at contact@highimpactflix.com. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.